Should you draft Nico Collins in fantasy football this year? Well, let's talk about it. Nico Collins in fantasy football this year is a player who both has some really, really interesting and good traits and also some really ugly ones. So let's talk about it. The main draw of Nico Collins is the fact that, a lot like Malik Neighbors, he is about to have a huge amount of targets this year. Last year, coming into the year, Nico Collins was competing with Stefon Diggs and Tank Dell for targets. Now, coming into this year, Stefon Diggs shipped off to New England, and Tank Dell left most of his knee in Arrowhead. So it's basically Nico Collins and a bunch of rookies who, I expect, Jaden Higgins and the other Iowa receiver they drafted to eventually emerge as, a little bit of competition towards the year, but at least in the beginning, it's going to be all Nico, and probably all year, it's going to be mostly all Nico. So that sounds great, but the problem is Nico is playing with one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and it's going to be I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle. Last year, the Texans' O-line was a big problem, and it single-handedly contributed to C.J. Stroud having a sophomore slump. And, this year, coming into this year, they knew they needed to fix that. And the way they did that is by trading away the best part of the offensive line last year, Laramie Tunsil, to the Commanders. So the offensive line might just be worse now than it was last year instead of better, which means C.J. Stroud may spend even more time on his ass not throwing Nico Collins the ball, which is really not what you want. And we kind of saw this towards the end of the year when the offensive line really fell apart. And after Nico Collins came back from injury, his games were just all over the place. We had 9 points, 20 points, 19 points, 13 points, 17 points, 8 points, 14 points. That's a really wide range of outcomes for your first-round wide receiver, and that's not really what you want out of them. Like, there are 2 games in here, 9 and 8, which are bad, 2 games which are incredible, 20 and 19, and then a bunch of mid with 13 and 14. And that's really, you want your first-round pick to be consistent. You want it to be a consistent contributor to your team, and that's kind of why I'm just fading Nico Collins, because I think that I can draft a guy like Derrick Henry, or Malik Neighbors, or Puka Nacua, or even reach on like a Christian McCaffrey, say, if I'm betting on the bounce back, and get a more consistent contributor than Nico Collins, who I think that just the O-line might cause him to be a bit too unpredictable for my taste. I think he's going to be good, and I think he's going to have a lot of good weeks, but I also think that there could be weeks where he's just not good, and I'm not sure that I want to buy into that, and I think I'd rather spend my draft capital on someone who I'm sure is going to give me first-round results every week. So yeah, I'm a little out on Nico, but he's a good player at the end of the day, and I think that he will produce most of the time.